Good evening, Vanakkam. Hello. So,
Good evening, everyone. With immense pleasure, we welcome you all to Ganesh IAS Academy's GIAS Perspective Builder lecture series. We are extremely delighted to reconvene our lecture series this year. Previously, we have conducted more than 30 lecture series on various topics. While we temporarily paused our sessions, we have been continuously and tirelessly preparing to deliver an even more enriching and insightful experience upon our return, and thus we are here today. So, what is the purpose of this lecture series? It is to help aspirants to gain the knowledge, skills, and strategies that are necessary to successfully manage this challenging examination process. We very well understand the challenges and complexities that are faced by the aspirants, and we are here to provide you with guidance and support needed to overcome those challenges. So, throughout the series, you can expect a comprehensive coverage of various subjects and topics which are there in the syllabus of civil services examination. And to cover these topics, we have our esteemed panel of instructors who are experienced civil servants, subject matter experts, and even seasoned educators. They will deliver interesting lectures and provide practical tips and techniques which will help you to excel in your preparation journey. So, dear participants, your support for our lecture series is the driving force behind its success. We thank you all for your continued participation and enthusiasm. Now that we have set the virtual stage of our lecture series for today, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mr. M.L.K.RAJAA, for graciously accepting our invitation to join us today. Mr. M.L.K.RAJAA is the ex-director of Lok Sabha Secretariat of Parliament of India. He has broad experience on subject matters like administration and finance. He took VRS in November 2022. Now he is a freelancer and guest lecturer in educational institutions, and the lectures that he handles are on varied subjects. We welcome you, sir. The topic for today's session is role of governor. So, dear participants, we encourage you all to actively participate, ask questions, and even share your thoughts and experiences at the end of the session. Sir, we are eager to hear from you and benefit from your insights on this particular topic, that is role of governor. Whenever you're ready, please feel free to start the session, sir.
thank you, Deepak Prasanna, that extensive introduction. And yes, so let me start by saying that for any topic of discussion, and you should have the context in which the particular topic is being discussed or answered. So I would suggest that when you look at the role of the governor, which is very much, in controversy today, and which has escalated to the level of repeatedly the Supreme Court being, approached. So இதுல பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா எனக்கு தெரிஞ்ச வரைக்கும் இது வந்து it's a very worrisome development in the federal structure. So if I can, if you, Divya Prasanna, if you could change to the first slide, if you could please do that. So how I'm going to address you and share my experiences and knowledge is that they give the larger context. Why I'm giving this? You're not expected to write about these things, but only when you know the context in which you are discussing, analyzing a particular topic or a personality or a post, then you will be in a better position to answer. So the larger context, as this thing is, it's a federal democracy. So federation, as I'm sure that உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும், federation அப்படின்னா there are two types of governments, one at the center or federal government or union government as we are, and there is democracy. So in the federal government level, you have these two governments, central and state, and as long as both the center and the states were ruled by the same political party or coalition, there was no issues. But once as early as 1962, you can see that there are a large number of regional parties and opposition parties. They've started getting the power to the states. So this has led to power struggle between the center and the state. As you can read, there is a clear demarcation of legislative, executive, judicial powers between the federal government, that is central government, the state government. As you're already aware, it's more of a union, because we have created the country, the nation, not with the support or the voluntary submission or joining of the union. So அதனாலதான் பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா நம்மளும் and historical experiences, you are all aware, நம்மளுடைய history என்ன சொல்லுது பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா நம்மளுக்கு we have the vociferous tendency to have, and already you know that we have different kinds of linguistic, ethnic, and religious and other cultural differences. So there is basically a tendency to divide, to go away from the one entity. So the forefathers, the constitution makers, having realized the past and the experiences, historical experiences, they decided to have this kind of union government which focuses on more the power, concentrates more power in the center. இப்போ பாத்தீங்கன்னா நம்மளது ஃபெடரல் டெமோக்ரஸிங்கிறது அப்படி ஒரு பேரே இல்லை நம்ம கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன்ல. there is no mention of federal government. So democracy, I'm telling why I'm mentioning this particular thing is democracy, governance by the citizens to elected representatives, will of the people is supreme. Hence all the institutions established are to serve the people and act according to the will of the people. If in the context la pathina, every authority, constitutional authority and elected representatives, they are supposed to serve the people. That includes the governors also. So what is worrisome now, and it has been since independence, is this the behavior of the governors, going against or kind of இதுல பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு எதிரா அவங்களுக்கு எதிர்முனையா வேலை செஞ்சு அந்த டெமோக்ராட்டிக் கவர்மெண்ட் தி ஸ்டேட் லெவல்ல வேலை செய்ய விடாம இவங்க செஞ்சுட்டு இருக்காங்க. So அது பாத்தீங்கன்னா initially that was not to be seen, but later it has developed in such a way that this is a really serious concern. So if we go to the next slide, please, Divya Prasanna. The centralizing tendency. இது நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா not only in India, you can see anywhere in the world where there is a federal setup, in any country, you will see the tendency is accumulating the power at the center. It's a natural tendency, but there is always a tiff between the federal government and the state governments. It's everywhere. So நம்மள quasi-federal, and I don't want to dwell too much into quasi-federal, as you're all aware. There is no definition of perfect federal government, but however, we have features of federal government, but which is more concentrated the power and the control, unlike a true or a typical federal government. We are constant. So present day, how far we have come as a nation. So idhula pathinga appadina, we have the constitutional provision for amending the constitution. When we have the constitution, which is the extensive American constitution, it hardly runs into 30-40 pages. Whereas normally it's a very extensive, covering each and every aspect of administration, taking the aspects from different democratic countries. But at the same time, probably it is the forefathers, the constitution makers envisioned, and what they believed, that each and every person occupying the constitutional position, governor madri, president madri, ellarume, they will be true and acting according to the ethos and with utmost integrity, which is a question now. Ipa namakku adu irukku. As you're aware that when I proceed with the lecture, I'll tell you how it has been deteriorating and a worrisome factor for a successful democratic federalist setup as in our country. If you can please move to the next one, Divya Prasanna. Yeah, so the role of the governor. As you're aware, over state governor except probably 2 union territories, that is Lakshadweep and union territories, we have something called lieutenant governor, which are nominated again, appointed by the president and have more direct influence, unlike these states have. So, for example, in Tamil Nadu, we have a governor, and the approach would be, நான் உங்களுக்கு வந்து உங்க எக்ஸாமினேஷன் அப்ரோச்சும் நான் எப்படி எதிர்பார்க்கிறேன் அப்படின்னா, which ideal ஒரு suggestion is that when you deal with the topic, you should know the context. One is the context. As I told you, we are a federal democratic country. In that, the constitution plays, it is the supreme, constitution supreme than any other institution in the country. இது தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டோம்னா அடுத்தது போகும்போது அந்த பர்டிகுலர் இப்போ கவர்னர் அப்படின்னா we have constitutional provisions mentioned in the about the governor. So we should quote that, we should know that. இப்போ அதுலேருந்து டிசெக்ட் பண்ணி போகும்பொழுது then constitutional debates. இப்போ as you're aware, ஒரு constitutional assemblyன்னு ஒன்று இருந்துச்சு. As you're aware, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of the committee on the particular constitution drafting committee. So அந்த இடத்துல பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒவ்வொரு மெம்பரும் நிறைய they have difference of opinion and particularly about governor. இவருக்கு discretionary power கொடுக்கணுமா? British governmentல பாத்தீங்கன்னா the governor during the British time, he or she had more discretionary power, which was not liked by our constitution makers. அவங்க என்ன நினைச்சாங்க அப்படின்னா, இது வந்து இந்த டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் ரொம்ப கொடுக்கூடாது, இட்ஸ் a nominal head. கவர்னர் தேவையா இல்லையாங்கிற மாதிரி கொஸ்டின் வரும்பொழுது, and we almost the constitution maker decided that there has to be a person, a constitutional entity, and each state who will act as a link between this center and state. இப்ப நிறைய இது வந்திருக்கு, இவ்வளவு கான்ட்ரோவர்சிஸ் வந்தப்புறம் சில பேர் கேட்கறாங்க, கவர்னர் தேவையா, கவர்னர் வேணுமா, அவரை எலெக்ட் பண்ணணுமா, இல்ல அப்பாயிண்ட் பண்ணா போதுமா அப்படிங்கிறது, இதெல்லாம் கூட இந்த கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் அசம்பிளில டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இஃப் இது வந்து எலெக்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா, மிஸ்டர் நேரு வாஸ் தி பிரைம் மினிஸ்டர் earlier in the initial years. அவரு சொல்றது என்னன்னா, there will be a 2 power points. அது வந்து it is not good for democracy, it is not good for the state government அப்படிங்கிறார். So the most appropriate way at that time, maybe the time has come to change now, but that time was to have an appointed governor who will be constitutional executive head of the government, and all the executive actions, like in the center la vandu president of India is the executive head, he is head of the state. Adhe mari we should have something who will act according to the aid and advice of the council of ministers. This has been stated even earlier, before independence, during the development of this federal structure during British time also. So adala vandu irukra discretionary powers ipo eduthittu, though we have some discretionary powers now, but as we'll go through that aspect also, that are actually not that much discretion. Discretion is very little as far as the present governor is concerned. ஸோ இப்போ என்ன பண்ணணும்னா, நீங்க வந்து கான்ஸ்டியூஷன் அந்த ப்ரொவிஷன் தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டீங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த கான்ஸ்டியூஷன் டிபேட்ஸ்ல கவர்னர் பத்தி என்ன டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணாங்கன்னு தெரியணும் உங்களுக்கு. அதுக்கப்புறம் ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன்ஸ் ஆஃப் வேரியஸ் கமிஷன்ஸ். இப்போ என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, we have around almost 4 or 5 commissions set up by the union government is studying center state relations. And the center state relationsல பாத்தீங்கன்னா, one of the important aspect is governor. We can say the thorn in the flesh and kuda sollalam, if you look at it negatively, and rightly so, saying the present conditions. So adukapram judicial pronouncements. As you're aware, ipo irukra idula vand situation la when everything goes wrong or not right or not a mutually convenient or acceptable position of governor, abdi irukum poludhu state government and the center government and the commissions finally it comes to the role of the constitutional judiciary, that is the Supreme Court of India. இப்போ அவங்க சொல்றதுதான் ஒவ்வொரு இடத்துல starting from 1962 until now they have been reviewing the actions of the governor. Though the provisions in the constitution says that these actions of the governor is not reviewed, it cannot be reviewed and questioned. But the Supreme Court repeatedly mentioned அவங்க என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்க, that is this action, though the particular action of that cannot be questioned, but the thing is the contravention of the constitutional provisions, then the final interpreter is the Supreme Court. So இப்படி நம்ம போனா ஒரு லாஜிக்கா நம்ம ஒவ்வொரு டாபிக்கும் கொண்டு போக முடியுங்கிறது என்னுடைய இஷ்டம். The next please, Divya Prasanna, if you could please change it to next one. இப்போ பாத்தீங்கன்னா now what I try to do is that some of the articles of the constitution provisions, not all relating to the governor, but few have more stiff points, contradictory views of the governor on the one side and the state government on the other side. So appointment of governor, it's actually, that it is a president who appoints. So there have been, as I mentioned here, there is first Administrative Reforms Commission, 1969, SECRETARIAT Commission, National Commission to Review Working of the Constitution, and the Punchi Commission, which was the latest commission examined and given recommendations on center-state relations. இப்போ SECRETARIAT Commission இதுல என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா, actually when it comes to the appointment of the governor, the constitution portion, what does it say? என்ன சொல்லுது அப்படின்னா, anybody above 35 வயசு ஆனா போதும், சிட்டிசனா இருந்த போதும், they can become governor. But the recent or the controversy that has been seen since almost immediately after independence, அது என்ன சொல்லுது, இப்போ நமக்கு அந்த கவர்னருக்கு இன்னும் சில தகுதிகள் கொடுத்தா, டிஃபைன் பண்ணனா in the constitution itself, or there may be some other rules or so that amend the constitution in such a way that it gives, for example, SECRETARIAT Commission. It is another factor probably உங்களுக்கு எல்லாம் தெரிஞ்சிருக்கலாம், the commissions, repeated commissions கொடுத்த most of the recommendations are not accepted by the central government, which we any reasonable person like you and me will think that yes, this can be implemented to reduce the clashing points or the problems between the governor, one is the nominated appointed person, and another is the elected representatives of a state, which is very crucial. So என்ன சொல்றாங்க, he should be political links இருக்கக்கூடாது, intense political links, so he should not have taken part in politics in the recent past, not member of the ruling party. But we all know, நமக்கு எல்லாரும் தெரியும் என்ன நடக்குது இப்போ சொல்லு, சரிங்களா? Yes, there are some retired civil servants who have been posted as governors. At the same time, there are persons who are still being a party member, an active party member, probably, and they are getting posted as governors. The only thing, probably one of the few things that the government accepted in the Namari commissions, the governor should not be from the particular state. For example, ஒரு தமிழர் இருந்தாரு அப்படின்னா, அவரு அவங்களோ அவரோ தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு கவர்னர் ஆக முடியாது, அது ஒத்துக்கிட்டாங்க. அது which is not a very serious thing so far as the political convenience is concerned. So he should be appointed after effective consultation with the state CM, vice president and speaker of Lok Sabha by the PM before his selection, which is an ideal condition. உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும் நிறைய கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷனல் போஸ்ட், இப்போ ரீசெண்டா சீஃப் எலெக்ஷன் கமிஷனர் அண்ட் எலெக்ஷன் கமிஷனர்ஸ் செலெக்ஷன் போஸ்ட்ல என்னது காம்போசிஷனே மாறி இருக்கு, சரியா? ஸோ தி காம்போசிஷன் ஆஃப் த செலெக்ஷன் கமிட்டி definitely indicates the true nature of the democracy that is alive. ஒரு டெமோக்ராட்டிக் கண்ட்ரில என்ன இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னா, opposition parties and the constitutional authorities who are supposed to be more knowledgeable on the particular idhula. So inge pathina ennuடைய suggestion enna irukum appadina, which can be added to this, is the Chief Justice of Supreme Court. when they can be a member of the selection committee, though it is not accepted. இதெல்லாம் யாரும் இந்த வரைக்கும் இந்த கவர்மெண்ட்டும் அக்செப்ட் பண்ணல. If you see இதே மாதிரி நிறைய கமிட்டிஸ் இது சிமிலர் லைன்ஸ்ல ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன் கொடுத்துருக்கு பண்ணல, which is unfortunate. So I will say that even leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha can be a member of this selection committee. It is my suggestion. Having been now on the parliament officer work பண்ணியிருக்கேன், அங்க இருக்கிற functionings எல்லாம் பார்த்திருக்கேன். So for a true democracy, I feel that these can be as more, it can be a suggestion to form a committee involved in these constitutional authorities. If you could please go to the Divya Prasanna, if you could please go to the next one. So the Punchi Commission is the latest one. இவங்க தான் latest in that central state relations examine பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. Even the committee should be formed again. Our சொல்றது பாத்தீங்கன்னா Prime Minister, Home Minister, Lok Sabha Speaker, and the concerned Chief Minister of the state. Of course, yes. CM is the head of the government, and he or she is the elected representative and chief executive of the state, particular state. So I feel beyond this, why not include Chief Justice of India or a nominated Supreme Court judge in his behalf and her behalf, and as well as leader of opposition, which will show the more true representation of a democratic process. இது கரெக்டா இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு. So deletion of doctrine of pleasure. So what is doctrine of pleasure? உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கலாம். இது வந்து ஒரு president appointment ஒரு post. So president, if he or she thinks that this person is not good, suppose I am governor of a particular state, இவர் வந்து ராஜா வந்து சரியில்லை தூக்கிடலாம் அப்படின்னா, whims and fancies. The courts also have come into play in this, and Supreme Court, they have said இந்த மாதிரி whims and fancies without reasoning அது வந்து ரிமூவ் பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லியிருக்கு. So the pleasure-na என்ன? Pleasure is what the President of India acts according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers at the center. So essentially, it is the Council of Ministers at the center who decides who will be the governor and when or he or she can be removed. So this should be deleted. Divya Prasanna, if you could please go to the next one. Term of office. The governor shall hold during the pleasure of president. President is the Council of Ministers, that is the ruling dispensation, a party or parties at the center, which is a problem. உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். It's a simple thing to understand. Centerல ஒரு party or coalition party இருக்கு, and சில stateஸ்ல opposition party இருக்கு அப்படின்னா, it's natural, politically natural to have difference of opinion. In this case, you need a person who is far matured and understanding, and the governor is supposed to act according to the constitutional provisions, which the Supreme Court as well as other commissions have reiterated. இது சொல்லியிருக்காங்க, திருப்பி நம்ம அதுக்கு வருவோம். So the governor may writing his address, he can resign, of course, and the governor shall hold office for a term of 5 years from the date of the same. The 5 years என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கு, சில commissions என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கு. If you read, நீங்க படிங்க, சில commissions நான் சொன்ன commissions recommendation, go through them, and it will be helpful for you, not just on the governor himself or herself, but the whole center-state relations, which is a burning issue now. முன்னாடி இப்போ பாத்தீங்கன்னா the financial relations between it's really a problem now, and the states have been demanding more justice, equitable justice. So you read all those the center-state relations, the commissions which set up on center-state relations. And for example, in the third point, the 5 years on the commissions, I think it's the SECRETARIAT committee, which says that this should be permanent. So it should be a permanent, it cannot be removed. The governor should not be removed, rather, without a reason or proper structure, proper deliberation and reason. Okay, so if you could please go to the next one, Divya. Again, SECRETARIAT Commission, which, as you all know, it is one of the foremost commission, and it's a very famous commission which has recommended excellently well. But unfortunately, most of the government, consecutive government, let us not blame a particular government, but any government at the center is not accepting most of these recommendations, which are probably for the political reasons, but worrisome for the constitutional functioning of a federal democracy. governor should enjoy the term of 5 years. 5 வருஷம் இருக்கணும் அவரு அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கு. இப்போ வந்து கவர்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியால பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா பர்டிகுலர் மினிஸ்ட்ரிஸ்க்கு டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு செக்ரட்டரி ஆனாங்கன்னா அவங்க வந்து கடைசி நேரத்தில் ஒரு 5-6 மாசம் முன்னாடி ஆனாலும் அவங்களுக்கு 2 years மினிமம் இது கொடுப்பாங்க. அந்த மாதிரி இந்த மாதிரி கவர்னர் கொடுக்கும் பொழுது certain term unless there is proof of his ineligibility in continuing as a governor. So he should be removed from the tenure only on the grounds of mentioned in the constitution or if aspersions of cost. Morality, dignity, constitutional propriety. It's a big words, and I feel as a personally as a citizen of this country, I would love the central union government appointing more the persons with more dignity and integrity. We'll quote an example also in the subsequent the process of removal. State government may be informed and consulted. இல்லையா? இப்போ இது வந்து நம்ம ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இப்போ தெரிஞ்சிருக்கோம் உங்களுக்கு, தமிழ்நாடு கவர்மெண்ட் has gone to the Supreme Court and actually they've written to the union government, the president of India, to instruct the governor to act according to the constitutional provision. And unfortunately the Supreme Court also reprimanded. இது சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் ரொம்ப கடினமான வார்த்தையில சொல்லியிருக்கு, இந்த மாதிரி நீங்க அப்படி பிஹேவ் பண்ணக்கூடாது, கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் ப்ரொவிஷன் கிளியரா இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்கு. So only they can say this, they cannot recommend particular action, which is அது என்ன ஆகும்னா அது லெஜிஸ்லேட்டிவ் எக்ஸிக்யூட்டிவ் அண்ட் லெஜிஸ்லேட்டிவ் டொமைன்ல வந்துடும். இந்த மாதிரி சேஞ்சஸ் கொண்டு வரணும்னா அவங்க தான் செய்ய முடியும். So yeah, the next slide please. Ponchi committee, yes, the tenure of it must be guaranteed a reasonable opportunity for showing cause on the grounds on which he or sought to be removed is the principle of natural justice. நீங்க கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்க. அது வந்து when any ordinary citizen gets that opportunity, why not a person for the stature of governor அவருக்கு ஏன் கொடுக்க கூடாதுங்கிறது தான் ஒரு கேள்வி. And impeachment by state legislature சொல்றாங்க. Impeachment again, it is there is no bar on that. Normally impeachment is done on a person, on a post, a position which is elected directly or indirectly. But there is nothing wrong in including this impeachment by state legislature, which for example they probably would have been followed by certain states in the present conditions. Next please. Again, during the pleasure of the government should be deleted from the constitution. Pleasure அப்படின்னா அதான் எப்போ வேணா ரிமூவ் பண்ணலாங்கிறது அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேட்டிவ். இஃப் யூ சி இப்போ நீங்க வந்து பப்ளிக் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா any officer of the government of India department can be, or even the state government, the government has the authority to transfer anything on administrative reasons which cannot be questioned in the court of law. But not to this position, which is a constitutional position as big as important as governor. Because the governor should not be removed at the will of the central government. Instead, he or she should be removed only by resolution of the state legislature. So repeated points, state legislature, state executive, the chief minister and the council of ministers, they should be involved in such appointment as well as removal. Next please. Yeah. There was a case in this where the Supreme Court observed this. The central government enjoys the power to remove governors of different states as long as it does not act arbitrarily, without reason, or in bad faith. இதெல்லாம் பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா இது வந்து again, see, I'll tell you something. When the ex-president of India, Mr. K.R. Narayanan said, it is not the constitution that failed, it is the people who implement the constitution that has failed. So எல்லாமே பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா இப்போ டாக்டர் அம்பேத்கர்ல இருந்து great luminaries, they have said at that time they reposed faith. இனிமேல் வர்ற எல்லாரும் இந்த மாதிரி கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் பொசிஷன்ல they'll be good, they'll be high persons of high integrity and devotion and a professional, which unfortunately is not the case, at least some governors are concerned. So yes, the next one please. Executive power of the state. Yes, the executive power of the state in the provision படிச்சீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு தெரியும், it falls to the governor. So ஒவ்வொரு ஆக்ஷனும் the Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister takes decision, and the decision is passed by the legislature, ultimately, like union government, where the president gives assent, inga vandu executive idoda perla dhaan pogum. The governor's name only, everything is executed after his or her approval. So இது வந்து you can just read, as you know, controversies கடைசியில பாத்தீங்கன்னா எழுதியிருக்கேன், controversies or appointment of vice chancellors of state run universities. Again, it is one of the burning issues. If நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும், தமிழ்நாட்டுல வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் வந்து வைஸ் சான்சலர்ஸ் ஆஃப் யூனிவர்சிட்டிஸ் அப்பாயின்ட் பண்றது ஸ்டேட் கவர்மெண்ட் எடுத்துக்கிச்சு, பில் இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணிச்சு, பாஸ் பண்ணிச்சு. But unfortunately, what happens in the democracy, which I feel it should happen, is that it goes to the governor as far as the state is concerned for approval, his or her approval. அங்க அப்ரூவல் ஆகல. அதே மாதிரி பாத்தீங்கன்னா கேரளாலையும் நடந்திருக்கு. வெஸ்ட் பெங்கால் they went to the extent of passing a resolution or an amendment or thing to the Universities Act, State Run University Act, to appoint CM, Chief Minister, as the Chancellor of the universities run by the state. But again, which is not made a law, because every law which has been passed by the legislature at the center, by the president, state by the governor. So these are the controversies. One of the controversies which is demanding attention of the people on the governor post. So next, please. Judicial observations. As I told you, only the savior of, I feel, any democracy, including India, has been the judiciary. And we have wonderful free judiciary so far, which gives excellent observations and objective evaluation of the situation. According to the constitution. They don't go by emotions, values, but of course, when they, as you're aware, constitutional provision, there is a need a clarity on the particular provision. They go to the preamble and the what went behind the creation of particular act. Okay, so adu vandu pathina ipo enna solranga, although the constitution which the executive power, he can act only on the advice of the council of minister with the chief minister or head. So this is subsequently affirmed by the Supreme Court in Shamsher Singh with state of Punjab. I would advise unga students now on the particular example na enna sollarna, which people like us, me and Mr. Ganesh, the director, used to do is that quote these case laws and underline them, which personally I feel I was so confident when I wrote the main examination about particular aspect, general studies, that I used to mention these case laws, the year, and underline them. So enna pannona, examiner you should come directly at the point. In between na ungalku sila tips kuduthite iruken, that's just to make it interesting and to whatever comes to my mind with my experience. So idu enna pannona ipo, however the article 163 grants the governor discretionary powers in, okay, adiliyum aid and advice except in so far as he is by under the constitution requires to exercise his functions or any of them in his discretion. So discretion பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா, as you're aware, உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும், for example, formation of state government. அப்ப யார் இருப்பா, யார் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க. As you know, உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு எலெக்ஷன் ஆயிடுச்சு. இப்போ வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இதுல லோக்சபா எலெக்ஷன்ஸ் வரும். அதுல வந்து ஒரு பார்ட்டியோ இல்ல கொலிஷன் பார்ட்டியோ, ப்ரீ எலெக்ஷன் கோலிஷன், போஸ்ட் எலெக்ஷன் கோலிஷன், இதெல்லாம் நிறைய விஷயங்கள் இருக்கு. பிரசிடென்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா கன்சிடர் பண்ணும்போது அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, பார்த்துட்டு they do this. இப்போ ஸ்டேட்டை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் கவர்னர் இஸ் த அத்தாரிட்டி. இஃப் தெர் இஸ் அ கிளியர் மெஜாரிட்டி, he or she doesn't have any say. அவங்களால ஒன்றும் செய்ய முடியாது. But whereas there is a hung assembly and the governor can take a call seeing the situation. So இந்த இடத்துல ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட ஒரு பொசிஷன், ஒரு அத்தாரிட்டி தேவைப்படுது. Somebody will say that there is no need for governor. Actually, from the former CM of Tamil Nadu, C.N. Annadurai, and even to my knowledge, Mr. Nitish Kumar from Bihar, he is still a CM, they demanded removal of governor, which ideally, practically, I feel it is not advisable, because you need a personal authority to be a link and act. Of course, he or she should act according to the aid and advice of the governor, but certain situation demands For example, இது என்னாச்சு dissolve ஆயிடுச்சு. For example, there is no confidence motion வந்தோடனே அடுத்தது யாரை கூப்பிடணும் அதுலயும் there are many controversies about the role of the governor, the decision of the governor, but there has to be a person. We will come to that later. For example, எனக்கு என்ன தோணுச்சுன்னா the governor when appointed, he or she should be a person who has a wide knowledge, a proven knowledge of a legal or administrative matters. அது இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு தோணுச்சு. So another thing is probably my suggestion would be to have a professional assistant, a secretariat for the office of the governor, probably which is missing. What என்னுடைய personal experiences-ல தெரிஞ்ச knowledge-ல நான் சொல்றேன், the governor's office is still run not that professional. So one of the suggestions can be to appoint legal or administrative persons with the, to aid and advise within the office of the governor. So in the situation, on the appointment when there is a hung assembly, and there are situations where the governor is supposed to take a call. So these are the exceptional conditions. Okay, next please. Yeah, Constitution Assembly debates. As I told you, உங்களுக்கு வந்து Indian Constitutional Authority பத்தி நீங்க எது படிச்சாலும் வந்து இந்த Constitution Assembly debates கொஞ்சம் உங்களுக்கு படிச்சீங்கன்னா இப்போ there is on the website. I was in charge of the digitization of parliament records, and now you can access all the debates online. நீங்க பார்த்துக்கலாம். So I would suggest that you read. நீங்க போய் அதுல படிங்க, உங்களுக்கு நிறைய விஷயங்கள் தெரிய வரும். So இதுல என்ன சொல்றாரு, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says that discretion was very limited, must be read in conjunction with other articles. In a responsible government, there can be no room for the governor acting on discretion. He went to the extent of saying that he has no discretion at all. But there are situations which are limited situations. I feel in the recommendation we can say, we can suggest in the SALEயும் சரி இதுலயும் பண்ணலையும் சரி. So அந்த situations மட்டும் discretionல பண்றது, அதுக்கும் வந்து ஒரு procedure கொடுத்தா நல்லா இருக்கும். Past and which advice of the legal luminaries how to go about it. So in the discretion, governor and the constitution has no function which he can discharge by himself. He goes to the extent of saying that the governor has in all situations has to abide by, which is as per the Supreme Court judgments also observations is right. So the governor cannot act independently except very few situations apart from advice of the same. So does not confer upon him to overrule the ministry on particular matter. Even under this article, the governor is bound to accept the advice of the ministry. Yes, next please. Again, it is remarkable. I was telling you, இந்த காலத்தையும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, அதாவது இந்த காலம்னா probably 20 years, 30 years down the line. But in the problem of governor, issues between the governor and the elected people at the state level has been there since 60s. So இப்போ பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Mr. Surjit Singh Barnala was appointed by the president, that is on the aid and advice of the central government, whereas he took a stand when it came to Tamil Nadu. அவர் கொடுக்க மாட்டேன்னு சொல்லிட்டார். அதனால என்ன பண்ணாங்க, உடனே அவர் வந்து டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணாங்க. He just went off. That is what is needed. So இது எப்படி வரும் அப்படின்னா, there has to be a selection commission which involves not just the constitutional authorities like PM, president, and as well as should be involved with the judiciary, probably the Supreme Court Chief Justice, and why not apart from the speaker, why not the leader of opposition? இவங்கெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு ஒரு டெசிஷன் எடுத்தா probably we will come out better personalities and persons with conviction. And another thing I want to tell you, the tenure, safety of tenure, உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்குமே பயமா இருக்கும் இல்லையா? ஒரு இடத்துல என்ன ஒரு போஸ்ட்ல போட்டுட்டு எப்ப வேணா என்ன தூக்குவாங்க. ஸோ என்ன பண்ணுவேன், நான் வந்து human beings are mostly selfish, so it is bound to happen. So what I will do in order to save me my position, I will adhere, யார் என்ன சொன்னாலும் நான் கேட்டுக்குவேன். ஸோ இது வந்து இந்த பயம் இருக்கக்கூடாது, எப்போ தூக்குவாங்க, என்ன டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுவாங்க இருக்கக்கூடாது. அப்புறம் வந்து இந்த மாதிரி இந்த கண்டிஷன்ஸ்லாம் இருந்தா they can act like this. Even if you say that first time in the history of India, இவர் நம்ம டாக்டர் அப்துல் கலாம், the great man I admired personally, அவர் என்ன பண்ணாரு, ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷன்ல he was somewhere abroad and he didn't have a time or opportunity to go through certain recommendations by the government of, I think, Uttar Pradesh, accepting imposition of central rule in the state. அவர் என்ன பண்ணிட்டார், he felt so bad. You can say that there are situations which made him do so, but whatever. But he took a stand and referred the next bill which came into the. I don't remember exactly on what the bill, the subject matter of the bill. adilla ana அவர் திருப்பி அனுப்பிச்சார். So we need such persons of conviction, devotion, integrity, which can happen only when there is a selection committee, and the selection committee involves these kind of persons, influence authorities, including probably the chief minister of the particular state. So the next, please. Yeah, why this thing, preserve, protect, and defend the constitution and the law. Both, when he or she takes the vote, they have to do this. Explicit constitutional provisions 200. If a return bill is passed again by the assembly with or without amendments, the governor shall not withhold assent therefrom. Either Supreme Court recently, in the case of Tamil Nadu, where the governor, upon kind of observation by the initial proceedings, ஆரம்பத்தில் ஒரு கேஸ்லயே அவங்க அப்சர்வேஷன் பார்த்துட்டு உடனே இவர் என்ன பண்ணிட்டாரு, ரிட்டர்ன் பண்ணார். he was withholding certain number of bills without a reason, and in spite of the state government writing requesting him to clear the bills, he didn't. So then after the observation, immediately sent it back to this thing, reconsideration. So in the provision clear சொல்லுது, there is no ambiguity, ஒரு சந்தேகம் கிடையாது. The 200 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் திருப்பி reconsideration ஆனிச்சு, the assembly passes it again with or without accepting his recommendation observations, the governor has to accept. இது பாத்தீங்கன்னா unequivocally, அதாவது இது சந்தேகமே இல்லாம இந்த சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் சொல்லியிருக்கு, நீங்க பண்ணது தப்பு, அப்படி செஞ்சிருக்க கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. So in this case, you say that the person has to protect the constitution and provision. இது பண்ணல. Understand the intention behind creating posts and limited role played by the governor, the debates in the constitution. And okay, இது ஏன் நான் எழுதியிருக்கேன் அப்படின்னா, as I was telling you, the person who is appointed as governor, he or she should have clear understanding how it evolved. And the governorship என்ன, எதுக்காக வந்துச்சு, what is the reason behind it, what are the concerns expressed by initially, and what have been the experience so far, and what is expected. இதெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு the governor, the person who is occupying the governorship, should know before the second. And on the right side, service well-being of the people. Yes, so he or she should understand whatever be the case, except if the provision of the constitution is contravened by any bill, any passed by this thing, or which is affecting the powers of the particular high court, or it affects the central legislation, or it affects the national integrity of the country. இந்த மாதிரி விஷயங்கள் இல்லாம இருந்தா, otherwise he is supposed to act according to the will of the people of the state, that is expressed through the state government and legislation. That is what I want to say. The next, please. Yeah, assent to bills. இதுதான் the most controversial at present. இப்போ நீங்க நியூஸ்லாம் படிச்சு ஃபாலோ பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு இது நல்லா தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும், என்ன ஆயிட்டு இருக்குன்னு தெரியும். இப்போ நம்ம ரீசெண்டாகவும் சொன்னேன், நான் அந்த பில் ரிட்டர்னிங் ஆஃப் பில், இவர் என்ன பண்ணுவாரு, gives assent. இவருக்கு என்ன பண்ண முடியும், இவங்களுக்கு, சாரி, மேல் ஆர் ஃபீமேல், let us be neutral about that version. Sorry, it's withhold. Some of the spelling mistake, it's not with, it's withhold. அவர் அசென்ட் கொடுக்க முடியும், அக்செப்டன்ஸ் கொடுக்க முடியும், இல்லை வச்சுக்கலாம், அவர் கூட வச்சுக்கலாம். அப்புறம் ரிசர்வ் ஃபில் த பிரசிடென்ட். இந்த வித் ஹோல்டுங்கிறதுக்கு இப்போ இது சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் has repeatedly told withholding doesn't mean that he or she can keep it forever. There has to be a reasonable time within which the governor has to, if he or she is not satisfied with the content of the bill, என்ன பண்ணணும், அவரு திருப்பி வந்து he or she has to send it back to the legislature with the particular aspects of the past legislation where he or she, the governor, has doubts. Okay, so அது வந்து பண்ணிட்டு திருப்பி கொடுக்கணும். அதான் இப்ப நம்ம பேசிட்டு இருந்தோம். அப்படி திரும்பி வந்தா கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷனல் ப்ரொவிஷனே சொல்லுது that the governor has to accept, give assent to the bill. So even after reconsideration, endanger position of the, இது வந்து நான் முன்னாடியே சொல்லிட்டேன். என்ன விஷயங்கள் அவங்களால பிரசிடென்ட்டுக்கு ரெஃபர் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்னா, ஒரே விஷயம், இந்த விஷயம் ரீகன்சிடரேஷனுக்கு அப்புறம் கூட பண்ணலாம். ஹைகோர்ட்டுக்கு if the intended bill, the bill passed, ஹைகோர்ட் பொசிஷனுக்கு அவருடைய பவர்ஸ் இதுக்கு எல்லாம் ஏதாவது அஃபெக்ட் ஆச்சு அப்படின்னு the governor can send it to the president for reconsideration. Yes, next please. Article 200, yes, the Supreme Court wonderfully, yes, அவங்க நல்லா சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. என்ன கேட்டீங்கன்னா, இது வந்து it's the biggest opportunity for us, for the country, for the democracy, for this parliament to understand the concerns and look into the matter to see. I feel that the recommendations enna sollalam appadina, the center should appoint a committee wherein persons of high caliber, luminaries, legal, otherwise administrative, which should include the judge of the Supreme Court and other things, to review the provisions in the light of the various commissions' recommendations and as well as the observations of the Supreme Court and recommend. இது என்ன பியூட்டி அப்படின்னா, இன்ன வரைக்கும் நம்ம பேசலாம், ஏற்கனவே சொல்லியிருக்கேன், in spite of so many commissions repeatedly mentioning, அதே தான் திருப்பி திருப்பி சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. ஏன்னா the problem is the same. The அடிப்படை இது என்ன அப்படின்னா, the basic problem is certain things which repeatedly the commissions dwelled upon and advised, which the government of India or the powers that be did not recognize. I'm telling, not for the present regime, continuously. Again, we need something called political will and the great concern for successful democracy. So Article 200 of the Constitution gives the governor 3 choices. Also, in this, governor withheld assent on this thing. Once he has withheld assent, there is no question of him referring them to the president. Okay, the bills that have been referred back to the legislature, the same has been. So இது நான் ஏற்கனவே உங்களுக்கு சொன்னேன், ஒரு பில்ல வித்ஹோல்டு பண்ணி அதாவது அப்சர்வேஷனோட திருப்பி அனுப்பிச்சு லெஜிஸ்லேச்சருக்கு, அந்த லெஜிஸ்லேச்சர் அப்படியே திருப்பி அனுப்பிச்சது பாஸ் பண்ணி, அகெயின் they have to sit and pass. ரீசெண்டா தமிழ்நாட்டில் நடந்து உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். Governor has no option but to give assent, accept this. So this is what the thing is. Yes, the next please. The SECRETARIAT Commission, as you are aware, the very famous committee which has dwelled too deep into the state relations, and obviously governor is one of the important position where there has been a problem between the center and the state. So idella enna sollirukanga, the rare cases of unconstitutionality that can be implied as a discretionary power of the governor. A rare case, adula dhaan pananum discretion. சரிங்களா? அது இல்லாம என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்க, the president should dispose of such bills within a maximum period of 6 months. The president withholding assent, the reason should be communicated. இதுல ஒரு interesting point என்னன்னா, legal constitution point. When it is referred to the president and the president sends it back to be reconsidered by the assembly, the state, they have a limitation, a particular period. அதுக்குள்ள திருப்பி அனுப்பணும். Whereas there is nowhere, there is no mention about particular time period within which the governor has to give assent or the president has to give assent. அது இல்லாம இன்னொன்று நம்ம புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். அஃப்கோர்ஸ் கவர்னருக்கு நிறைய ஒர்க் இருக்கும், வேலை இருக்கும், பிரசிடென்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியாவுக்கு இருக்கு, ஸோ இதெல்லாம் இருக்கு, இல்லைன்னு சொல்லணும். பட் திஸ் ஆஸ்பெக்ட் இஸ் ஆல்சோ வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். அண்ட் எல்லாருமே பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா அந்த ஜுடிஷியரி ஆல்சோ சேஸ் ரீசனபிள் டைம். தே வில் நாட் டிஃபைன் அண்ட் தே ஆர் நாட் சப்போஸ் டு டிஃபைன் டைம் லிமிட். வாட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் ஆக்ஷன் இஸ் நீடட் ஃபார் கரெக்டிங் அ மிஸ்டேக்? தே won't say. It is only the executive initiation. இப்போ நீங்க உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்க ஒரு பில், ஒரு லா கொண்டு வரணும், புது லாவோ இல்லை அமெண்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா தி எக்ஸிகூட்டிவ், இங்கே கவர்மெண்ட் அங்கே சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட்ல வந்து they have to draft the bill, bring it to the parliament, then legislature sits and discusses it and passes it. So இந்த ஆஸ்பெக்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து இதுல பண்ணி தான் they have to give this thing to further the cause of the upholding and keeping the democracy intact. I think so. So the next page. Again, the Punchi committee says should take a decision with respect to a bill presented for the resolution within the period of 6 months. Again, they are suggesting time period. However, these recommendations have not been implemented till date. Of course not. Any government from beginning to the end. And I feel the 6 months, having experience in the legislature, 6 months is a reasonable time for a constitutional authority to decide. This is what my suggestion is. Again, the governor should take a decision with respect to president within 6 months. So these have not been implemented. I think, yeah. Next one, please, Divya. Yes. So the Supreme Court, what it says again, having withheld this, I think we have seen this again already. First instance, now therefore, okay, when the governor withholds his assent, the bill is not killed. He cannot stall the bills at this level. The first provision of the article does not provide him with the fourth option. The governor is only a nominee of the union government. He cannot stultify the bills completely at this level. He has only 3 options. We know the 3 options. Acceptance, withholding is not permanently withholding, but after examination, referring back to the legislature for reconsideration and referring to the President of India. The first proviso's last line is very clear. So it says the governor shall not withhold assent to reenacted bill sent back to him for in spite of this. Remember, the interesting thing is, Supreme Court clearly who is the interpreter of the Constitution. Supreme Court says, without mincing a word, clear as solid, shall not withhold assent, but it doesn't happen. Okay, so I feel there is high time that the government and the center has to really take things seriously and do something in order to save the democracy and the functioning of federal governance. The next piece. Do we have another one? Sample topics. Yeah, this is what I thought. The governor is under the Constitution, not above it. இது இப்போ இவ்வளோ நேரம் நம்ம பார்த்தது அதுதான் நம்ம பார்த்துருக்கோம். Constitution is supreme. Constitutionல clear நம்ம Constitution one of the most elaborate constitution in the whole world. So the discussion, for example, இப்போ இதுல என்ன பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா, நான் what I'm trying to say is, இங்க வந்து as I always feel that the others also, that ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட் ஒரு கேண்டிடேட் என்ன பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா, அந்த டைரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் த கொஸ்டின் ஆரம்பிச்சு, my point has been, என்னோட டாக்டிக் என்ன இருந்ததுன்னா, strike at the beginning itself. For example, under the Constitution, not about அப்படின்னா, for example, நீங்க உங்களுடைய மெத்தட் நீங்க வச்சுக்கணும். You have to maintain your individuality in answering questions. Seriya? Better not copying or doing the same thing again and again. So idhula enna pannalam, under the Constitution about you can start like an article in a magazine or something. You say that the present situation of the governor presumably or acting not as per the Constitution, and the resultant tiff or flashing points between the governor and the states is leading to a kind of a stalling of the democratic governance of a particular state. So you can start with this. So the examiner என்ன தெரியும் அந்த எக்ஸாமினர் உங்களை திருத்துறவங்களுக்கு உடனே தெரிஞ்சிடும் இந்த கேண்டிடேட் வந்து ஸ்டார்டிங்ல அடிச்சிருக்காங்க கரெக்டா அடிச்சிருக்காங்க. Then you should say the constitution, what the constitution says about the governor. அந்த நிறைய ஆஸ்பெக்ட்ஸ் நம்ம பேசணும், நீங்க இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஆஸ்பெக்ட்ஸ் எடுத்துக்கலாம். சொல்லிட்டு இதுல என்ன பண்ணணும்னா அப்புறம் நீங்க you should quote if you can from the constitutional debates. அதுல அந்த கன்சர்ன்ஸ் இருந்து பாருங்க. கவர்னர் பத்தி there were extensive deliberation in the Constituent Assembly before the 1950, of course. பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா அதுல வந்து நிறைய கன்சர்ன்ஸ். கவர்னர் சில பேர் சொன்னாங்க கவர்னர் பவர்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னாங்க, சில பேர் சொன்னாங்க கவர்னர் தேவையான்னு சொன்னாங்க. அது ஏன் கன்சர்ன் அப்படின்னு உங்களுக்கு அதுக்கப்புறம் then you come to practical incidents like commissions என்ன சொன்னாங்க, என்ன ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணாங்க. Apron, then you come to the court, which is ultimately the Supreme Court, which is the constitutional court in this case, in the interpretation of the Constitution. அவங்க என்ன சொன்னாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு கடைசியா நீங்க என்ன பண்ணலாம், லாஸ்ட்லி ஐ வுட் சஜஸ்ட் தட் யூ ஷுட் கிவ் சஜஷன்ஸ். இப்போ நிறைய இப்போ நான் சொல்லிட்டே இருந்தேன் என்னுடைய வியூஸ் நான் சொன்னேன், நீங்க உங்களை யோசிக்கலாம், நீங்க யூ கேன் பி வெரி இன்னோவேட்டிவ். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஃபார்மிங் a committee, consultation before appointing a governor between the center and the state, and there may be a search committee. Then there is a committee which decides, selects a particular candidate or person to be appointed as governor. இந்த மாதிரி சொல்லுவோம். அப்புறம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா அந்த ரெண்டு இதுல இந்த கன்சர்ன் நெக்ஸ்ட் டாபிக் which is probably long, but it conveys the concerns of the constitution makers. Governor can do a great deal of good if he is a good governor, and he can do a great deal of mischief if he's a bad governor, in spite of the very little power given to him under the constitution. இது வந்து பிஜி கேர்னு ஒருத்தர் சொல்லியிருக்காரு கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன். இப்போ என்ன சொல்றாங்க, we know the constitutionally there is only a limited power, a domain within which the governor can act. Right on. So அதுல என்னென்ன நடக்குது. So again, what you can say is don't go in one side. ஒரு பக்கமே பார்க்காதீங்க, ரெண்டு பக்கம் பாருங்க. As I told you முன்னாடி நான் சொன்னேன் உங்களுக்கு வந்து கவர்னர் அப்பாயின்மெண்ட், கவர்னர்ல இருந்து செலக்ஷன் ஆஃப் கவர்னர், அஷ்யூரிங் தி டென்யூர் ஆஃப் தி கவர்னர், இதுல இருந்து அப்புறம் ரிமூவல்ல வந்து சாதாரணமா எடுத்துக்கூடாது. ஓவர் நைட் சடன்லி தி கவுன்சில் ஆஃப் மினிஸ்டர்ஸ் இந்த சென்டர் திங்ஸ் that this governor is not doing as per our wish, remove him or her. அதெல்லாம் நீங்க அதை யோசிச்சு அந்த மாதிரி உங்களுக்கு recommendations you should give. The next topic which the governor would be the person really to lubricate the machinery and see to that all the wheels are going well by reason not of his interference but his friendly intervention. So I will say that comptroller and auditor general C&AG என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க, friend, philosopher, guide of government of India சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லைங்களா. அவங்க particularly public accounts committee. So in the same manner we can suggest the governor, that person should act as a friend, philosopher, guide in guiding the state government, the legislature, according to the provisions of the constitution. இதுல வந்து சிலதெல்லாம் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா, for example, the healthy democracy, continuous interaction between the governor and the chief minister is mandatory. Wherever it happens, of course, it is really good. It runs very well. But unfortunately, because of the changes in the political thinking, and that is not happening now. But the constitution mandates, the chief minister has to convey, as a head of the thing, he has to inform the governor of the developments in the state administration. Any legal provisions புதுசா கொண்டு வராங்கனாலும் சரி, he or she, the chief minister, should be in touch with the governor and apprise him or her about the developments. So அப்ப என்ன பண்ணோம், ஒரு ஹெல்தி டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ் ரெண்டு பேருக்கு வந்தது அப்படின்னா, over a cup of tea, of course. This will be good. This will be in spite of the governor being appointed by the center. If the state executive headed by the CM makes it a point to inform the governor about the impending, which is the bill. For bill புதுசா ஒரு introduce பண்றாங்க அப்படின்னா போயிட்டு he or she can have a discussion with the governor and say that this is the bill. அதே மாதிரி கவர்னர் வந்து இப்போ there are incidences உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கலாம். The reading, the remarks by the governor and the president of the center is prepared by the government of the day. இப்போ always discussions, like any two individuals coming, having a conversation and settling disputes, this constitutional authorities, governor as well as the elected representatives, should come together, sit and discuss as far as possible and take it forward. But at the same time, all said and done, the present competitive political situation demands certain concrete amendments in the constitution itself. Like, for example, if a traffic violation, initially what happens? The belief is initially punishing the people who violate the traffic laws. Over a period of time, the persons get used to following certain rules and norms, and the point of punishing goes away. This is the hope again, I'm telling. Okay. So our governors mere rubber stamps. Recently, the governor of Tamil Nadu has refused this statement. We are not rubber stamps. Of course, they are not. I feel that they are the authority who, or the, they are the kingpins or whatever you can say. அவங்கள வந்து முக்கியமான ஒரு இடத்துல இருக்காங்க. இந்த parliament, federal democracy function ஆகிறதுக்கு, to make the federal democracy successful, governor plays a vital, very important role, in this. So he or she, the governor, has authority, discretionary powers, but only so limited to particular exclusive situations. But still, they are not rubber stamp. Like நீங்க படிச்சிருப்பீங்க, president of India rubber stamp அப்படின்னா, he or she has to work according to the constitution, but on certain occasions he or she has the liberty to take a decision, informed decision. So I feel that these are the things which you can dwell upon. இப்போ உங்களுக்கு என்ன சஜஸ்ட் பண்ணுவேன்னா, as candidates, நீங்க ஒரு டாபிக் எடுத்தீங்கன்னா you should have extensive knowledge. அதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன பண்ணணும், நீங்க you should read the questions well. அப்புறம் என்ன பண்ணணும், strike it at the beginning. அப்ப என்ன ஆகும்னா, as an examiner, for example, if I'm an examiner correcting or evaluating your paper, what I would see is that first அடிச்சீங்கன்னா, yes, இந்த person, the candidate வந்து டாபிக் கரெக்டா டைரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் த கொஸ்டின் புரிஞ்சிருக்காது அப்படின்ட்டு I'll be happy. So if you the initial impression, first impression next, then follow it by the same. So points, and don't beat around the bush. உங்களுக்கு வந்து நிறைய என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, பொதுவா அப்பயும் சரி இப்பயும் சரி, எப்பயுமே நிறைய கேண்டிடேட்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு விஷயத்த சொன்ன கவர்னர்னா அவங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சதெல்லாம் எழுத ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். So that is what I wanted to say in a brief discussions. As I told you, I in between I've been giving suggestions to improve the situation starting from our governors selection process, qualifications, and tenure, then probably strengthening the governor's secretariat by giving him or her more professional help, assistance. So these are the things I thought I can share, giving possible suggestions to improve the situation. So I feel that's it. I have now, I've limited certain things. Now, if you are கேட்கணும் அப்படின்னா Tekla. I'd be happy to answer whatever possible.
Yes, participants, you can raise your questions one by one by raising your hand. Okay, so the first question is there any different power of governor of state and union territory? So the difference in power of the governors of state and union territory. That is the
Yeah.
first question.
Yes. As you're aware, we are aware that there are certain union territories which have elected government. Like we have in Pondicherry, we have in Delhi. Delhi is an interesting case. It is governed by a different act because it's being the capital of the country, where you're aware that the land, public order, and police, these three aspects are under the union government, central government, the home ministry. So the lieutenant governor. So what happens is that, as we're aware, even in the union territory of Pondicherry, Puducherry, there have been tussle between the earlier governor and the earlier government, and so this happens, and Delhi, of course, probably you're all aware about what is happening in Delhi. Delhi, the government has even approached the Supreme Court about the authority of the elected government of Delhi over police and land and all. Okay, but the Supreme Court did not interfere in this thing, and particularly due to the unique nature of the National Capital Territory being the place where the union government functions and union offices function. Whereas in Pondicherry, to my knowledge, the governor, the lieutenant governor, has almost the same restricted power as that of any other state, particularly even like a neighboring Tamil Nadu. And so far as union territory of Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, and Daman Dayu, these are ruled by lieutenant governors. There is no elected representative there. There is no elected, the legislative assembly. Hence, the power and influence of the union government in such places are far. For example, Lakshadweep has a member of parliament. It's a small union territory. There the union government has direct influence, and they bring out the budget in the there is a part of a union budget for such union territory. So naturally, the union government has extensive power, almost full control over such union territories, save the union territory of Goa, union territory of Pondicherry, and Delhi to a certain extent. Am I clear? I mean, is it okay, or you have still doubts?
Sir, we'll move to next question, sir. Is there any committee which looks into the conduct of government?
Sorry, please come again.
Like, is there any committee that looks into the conduct of government?
No, there is no committee. As I told you, the action of the governor is beyond scrutiny. The Constitution itself provides that it cannot be asked. There is no question at all about the action taken unless it is a constitutional measure where it is referred to the judiciary. So there is no committee. The governor comes under direct control of union government, and so no committee to overlook, to supervise the functioning actions of the governor. Nothing.
Yes, sir. Is there any need for the governor to continue as chancellor of universities?
Again, it's a convention. Being the head of the state, like in the union, the center, where the president is the chancellor of all central universities, or the president can nominate somebody. In most of the states, the governor is the chancellor by convention. But again, I'll tell you something. There is a provision in the constitution which says the executive powers can be overcome by a legislative measure, initiative. But the interesting point in this is that even in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, I told you, in West Bengal, and other states also, some other states. In West Bengal, as I told you, the legislature passed an enactment, to appoint chief minister as the chancellor of this thing. But it was not accepted by the governor because all the bills and suggestions, legislative measures, have to be agreed upon by the governor, against whom the legislature is trying. So, and interestingly, to my knowledge, if I remember, the governor of Kerala went to the extent of advising the chief minister, why don't you take the chancellorship and run the university? I'm not sure. I feel that I've read it, but it is by convention, being the head of state, being the top executive of the state, he or she is the chancellor of all the universities. And Tamil Nadu, for example, they passed a bill saying that the chief minister, the council of ministers, will select vice chancellors of the universities. Again, which has to be agreed upon, assent to by the governor, which is not happening. Yes.
So the next question is there any particular reason that suggestions of different commissions have not been implemented yet?
Yes. So this is what, having seen the action from very close quarters in the parliament, and having a kind of little understanding about the political dynamics, and I told you, competitive politics, not the matured politics. So who will want to give away their power? Politics is power. And following these suggestions will restrict the central government of controlling the actions of their representatives, who are the governors. So I feel that wherever it is simple to follow, like appointing a person of a particular state, not as the governor of the particular state or nativity, their nativity. For example, a person from Tamil Nadu cannot be a governor of Tamil Nadu. Well and good, it's good for me. I can appoint a person. So it is purely political. That's why I told you there is a need for political will, maturity, and acceptance that in a democracy, taking the opposition along is a vital thing, is the most important thing. And unfortunately, that is not happening. So long as a parties in power sees the other party as a competitor and doesn't want to leave the power, so nothing is going to happen. So that's why I told you the composition, even what are the suggestions for example, I gave, including the Chief Justice of India and the selection committee, including the leader of opposition, the selecting committee, which is ideal in a democracy, particularly in a parliamentary democracy. Even the president and the vice president, who is the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is the Council of States, representative states, which protects the interest of the states. So unfortunately, there is a political will, competitive politics, and not understand political maturity in governing such a large country. So that is needed. Yes.
Yes, sir. The next question is, if a bill is withheld by governor for a longer time, can the government make a new bill on the same topic?
No. No. When a bill is sent to the passed by the legislature, that means their work is over. So it goes to the governor or the president in the center, and the governor or the president has to take action, and the legislature has to wait. They cannot reintroduce the same bill, whereas they can claim that there are possibilities, to my mind and understanding of legislative functioning, that they can change the nature. But I'll tell you, the crux of the matter, the core of the matter stays the same. And remember, introducing a bill and passing a bill on the same subject will not go well with the democratic functioning of the country. No, they cannot.
Yes, sir.
Rather, they should not.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
How can we start the answer to the question, how governors are mere rubber stamps? How can we go about writing answer to this question?
Okay. Okay. I'll tell you my point, and I would suggest to my dear candidates to have their own, thinking. Personally, I would start that the constitutional provisions and the discussions that that went behind in the Constituent Assembly makes a person think that the governor is a rubber stamp, and particularly the provisions like the governor has to act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, except few provisions, normally makes an impression that the governor is a rubber stamp. However, there are certain situations which is very crucial, like formation of government, particularly when then you can go one after another, where his discretionary power has a real say. For example, Article 356, imposition of president's rule in the state, where we all know that there have been innumerable many instances where the governor, upon the recommendation of the governor, starting from the earlier, immediately after independence, when there is a non-union and the parties apart from the who have formed government at the center, I can say 60s. So this has been happening since then. So I find that the flow would be the striking point is when I say right, the constitutional provision or the restricted constitutional provisions and freedom given to the governor, like so and so, makes one feel or perceive that the governor is just a rubber stamp. So this will give the examiner thinking that this candidate knows the answer and he or she is going the right answers. Then you further elaborate where the governor is constitutionally authorized to use his or her discretionary powers, like formation of government and coalition politics, or there is no confidence motion and there is no clear party, and saving the constitution and saving the integrity of India. For example, a bill which is introduced, which gives the tone and tenor of opposing or kind of going in the different direction against the national unity. For example, I'm just giving a hypothetical condition. Then the governor comes in. So ultimately, I will tell you, finally, how I will conclude is that, of course, the governor is supposed to act on the aid and advice of the governors, and rightly so, because that person is a nominated, appointed person. He or she is not elected. There is the real power vests with the Council of Ministers, headed by the Chief Minister. However, there are certain occasions, and as I told you, rightfully so, gives give the governor certain powers, discretionary powers, where they really do take decisions without the aid and advice of the chief minister, other council of ministers. Yeah.
Yes, sir. The next question is, to what extent can the president direct or regulate the governor when he or she is acting against the state's interest?
See, I'll tell you something. These things, there are two aspects to it. One is on paper and off paper, off the records. The president, who functions with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers of the Center, can give strictures. For example, the government of Tamil Nadu, interestingly, has written to the president now, Madam Murmu, requesting her to instruct the governor to act according to the constitutional provisions. Now, there is a possibility of the governor writing to the, president writing to the governor, saying that in this instance, you are instructed to maintain your actions according to the provisions of the Constitution. So, president has all the powers, because I told you the president has, he or she can change the governor in just a stroke of pen. So, the president has all authorities, and indirectly the Council of Ministers of the Center has all authority to advise, give stricture, warning or advice to the governor anytime.
And the next question is, who can initiate a disciplinary action on governors?
There is no, that is what, I'll tell you something. So the suggestions, many of the commissions that are set up with Center gave was to have impeachment process. So what does it mean? The governor, there is no procedure or something by any other authority than the President of India. So who can make transfer the governor? For example, I told you an example of Surjit Singh Barnala, refusing to follow verbal instructions about suggesting or recommending president's rule. The center was transferred. He was transferred to Bihar as governor of Bihar. That is what I feel that is the punishment given by the center through the president of India. And I told you he resigned, or gracefully resigned. So that is the practical situation. Nobody else in the country can take action, and there is constitutional provisions to protect the governor also. If you could please read that provisions regarding governor, you will know. Nobody else. He is beyond all civil criminal proceedings while he or she sits as a governor. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? One last question.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. I have a question, and it is regarding this president's rule.
President's rule.
President's rule. Yeah. So, what criteria should the governor consider when recommending president's rule, and how do they assess the breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state?
Yes. See, as you rightly pointed out, the governor is a person appointed by the center to monitor the functioning of the state government and to see whether the state is functioning as per the constitutional provisions and not acting. So, as I told you, the example of Mr. Surjit Singh Barnala, okay, he is supposed to write to this president. So the on paper, if you see the governor citing, or this is actually confidential. this need not be revealed to public. The governor can simply write that observing the present government of the particular state is being run, and he may say any reason, any reasons that there too much corruption, they're running, acting against the interest of the people of the state, So there are reasons. So it's the governor who initiates and sends a report to the president. I'm telling you the formal things that happen. Okay, the formal things in the public domain. So then the president and his office, and indirectly the Home Ministry, the Council of Ministers, examines the recommendation of the particular governor and decides. And the Council of Ministers then recommend to the president to accept the recommendation of the governor, and the president rule is imposed upon. Did I answer? You had two parts, right? Or is it okay now? And behind this.
Yeah. So we had excellent questions.
Yeah.
I would say it was a very comprehensive and interactive lecture.
My pleasure.
We have covered a wide range of perspectives from this topic. So let us take a moment to recap the important points that were discussed here. We started with federal democracy, and then we moved to should the governor be elected or appointed. This topic was discussed, and Constitutional Assembly debates regarding that thing was also discussed, and various articles related to the topic of governor were also discussed here. And the doctrine of pleasure, the pleasure of the president, also discussed. Term of office of governor and various recommendations of the commissions on the role of governor, and different powers of governor like executive, legislative, and other things, and even ordinance making powers were discussed. And judicial pronouncements on the role of governors were also discussed. And many recent and past examples were also given on this particular topic. And sir has also given us his valuable advice on, the tips for writing answers and how to structure our preparation. All those were very insightful, sir. So I thank you for sharing your expertise with us today, and we sincerely appreciate your time and contribution to our lecture series, and we look forward to more such opportunities to learn from you in future, sir. Thank you once again for joining. And here I also wish to extend our thanks and gratitude to Mr. Babu, who's correspondent of Muttamil School, for joining us today. Thank you, sir. And dear participants, thank you all for being part of our resume lecture series. We expect your participation in all our lectures in future. And henceforth, we'll be having a lecture on second Saturdays of every month. Moreover, we have a workshop on 4th Saturday of this month, that is on 24th February. And we invite you all to join the workshop and future lectures as well. And for more updates on new batches of UPSC and TNPSC exams, you can contact Ganesh IAS Academy and stay connected with us through our social media platforms. Thank you all for this great evening.
Thank you, Ganesh Academy, for inviting me for this thing. I really relished, I enjoyed thoroughly interacting with you, and it would be a great pleasure again if I'm given an opportunity in future. So thank you, Divya Prasanna, for wonderfully hosting this event, and thank you, Mrs. Ganesh, for inviting me for the lecture. Thank you so much, and have a good night. Best wishes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Mm.